Hi, Brandis. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. I'm so excited to have you on today's podcast. Welcome to the Undone podcast. Today, you guys, we are joined by the beautiful and fiercely talented CEO and founder of Harlem's Fashion Row, a platform for multicultural designers. She's the author of the book Sponsored: How to Get Brands to Pay for Your Next Event. I know I need that book. She's also the founder of Icon 360, a nonprofit created to help aid fashion designers during the pandemic. So, welcome, Brandis
Thank
Daniel.
you. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. So scrolling through your social media, I noticed that you've been missing in action, and I've been missing you in action because your words, your videos of wisdom, they have helped me in some situations or some days or some mornings. And I'll go on Instagram and I'll see your video, and you've helped me like not go over the edge, not give up on my own dreams. So I can appreciate a Brandis video of encouragement. You're on a 21-day fast from social media. What has this been like for you?
Oh my goodness, it's been like a cheap vacation. It's amazing like how much life is going on around you while you're on social media, and this time when I could just kind of stop and really be fully present for my full physical life.
Yes.
It's been so nice. It really, really has. Like I have contemplated not coming back because
You have to come back.
it's
I need you.
so it's just so peaceful. Oh my gosh, it's so peaceful. And then I have so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how was I doing social media on top of all of this other stuff?
Right. Well,
It's been nice. It's
we
been nice.
definitely need you back because your words. Let me ask you about those moments when you were just recording, because I've watched you on YouTube too. You would used to do the Google Hangout or the Google,
Mm-hmm.
like where you were trying to get yourself prepared for public speaking. And
Yep.
this was years ago. And now just to see where you are today, when you are giving those words and talking us off the ledge, what's
Mm-hmm.
going what's going through your mind? Are you doing that for yourself also? Because girl, you be
Yeah.
helping people.
You know what? It's usually something I'm going through or aha moment I've had. So
Mm,
I am normally like, you know what? I just figured this out, or this is like a moment, like a some kind of moment that I'm having myself that I then want to share, right?
mhm.
And one of the things I said a long time ago when I barely had any followers on Instagram was that I was going to be an entrepreneur who told the truth,
Mm,
because I think everyone kind of makes entrepreneurship look so glossy and so
mhm.
fabulous. And I was always looking for, where are the war stories? Because I am going through a battle right now and I need somebody who is going to give me like the real.
Mhm.
And I just felt like I couldn't find them. I like Googled it, I searched Instagram. I'm like, where are the people who are just like telling the truth about,
Right.
what's happening? And so I committed. That was like one of my commitments for my Instagram. I'm like, if I'm gonna use this platform, I'm going to use this platform to really use some of the lessons that I'm learning currently, use the things I've been through, and be as transparent as possible.
Wow, and it's really helpful. I'm sure you get DMs from people. And I see the comments, but I'm sure you get private messages from people in which you've helped. So you're a Southern girl like me. You're from Memphis, and being from the South, there's this certain, I would like to say, quality about us, right? That, put us in a big city. I'm from Texas, you're from Memphis, but put us in a big city like a New York or an LA. And I think people, can kind of say, oh, she's not from around here. And kind of want
Mm-hmm.
to know more about you. So
Mm-hmm.
you were a pre-med major, and then what? You packed your bags and then moved to New York. Talk to us about that. Two suitcases, by the way. Talk to
Yeah.
us about that process, how you went from pre-med to living in New York.
Yeah, I entered college, University of Tennessee, as pre-med, and then I
Mm-hmm.
changed my major after I think my first or second year to fashion merchandising. My mom almost had like a heart attack about it. And finished there with a degree in fashion merchandising, moved home for a little while before
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Atlanta. I knew I wanted to live in New York, but I was so intimidated by the city. I didn't know anyone here. I never visited here before. It just felt like almost a place on the other side of the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I moved to Atlanta, lived there for about 3 years, and then my company that I was working for closed, and it was a home builder actually, and that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of my moment of, I know this is not what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I know I'm supposed to be doing something in fashion. Why am I even working for a home builder?
Right.
And so I didn't take any jobs. I got probably 4 job offers from people, our vendors, and I was like,
Mm.
nope, not taking those jobs. I'm gonna work in fashion. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I have no experience really, but I'm gonna figure it out. So I lived on my cousin's couch until she was like, girl, okay, enough. And then I moved back home to Memphis, back in the home that I grew up in, which was really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know a lot of people are dealing with that now, right? The pandemic was happened.
Yes.
They were living in all these fancy cities and then they had to move back home. And
Right.
that's a challenging place to be in. It takes a
Mm.
lot of humility. It's really difficult. But there is something, if you're in that place, whoever's listening to this, there's something that's there for you, right? So for
Mm.
me, when I was home during that time, I got so much healing from
Mm.
family issues. I was able to reconcile with my grandmother, who I had been upset with
Wow.
for so long. um, my mom and I were able to really kind of deal with some things that mothers and daughters, have.
Girl.
um it was, I know that God had me there at that time for a
Mm-hmm.
reason, and I had several family members who passed right before
Mm-hmm.
I moved to New York, and so I needed to be there.
Right.
Not to mention, while I was home, like my ex-boyfriend committed suicide while I
Oh
was
my God.
living in Memphis, so I needed to be there and around family.
Oh my
um
God.
so you never know like why you're in a certain place, but you have to trust that there's
Mm.
like a purpose for it, right? Even if it feels very uncomfortable. And again, I get it. I was right across the hall from my parents. We didn't have a big house,
Right.
so they were calling me for everything. But and then so eventually I was working part-time at Brooks Brothers in the
Mm-hmm.
store, folding shirts,
Mm-hmm.
selling people suits. And then I
Mm-hmm.
was working temp, filing papers. And one day while I was at that temp job, this guy who I'll never forget, OC Body, came to me and said, "What are you supposed to be doing?"
Mm.
And I said, "I'm supposed to be a buyer. I want to be a buyer for, fashion or retail company." And he said, "Have you applied to Catherine's?" Which was a store that was based in, their corporate office was based in Memphis. And I said, "I did, but they haven't called me back. I keep calling to follow up." And he looked at my resume and said, "Oh, I see why." And he helped me fix that resume. And they called me the same day. And
Wow.
so I
Wow.
got that job. And again, I feel nothing has been easy. As you can tell,
Girl.
like it's been, I got that job. I worked in allocations, not as a buyer, kept trying to get promoted to buyer. They kept telling me I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready until finally I said, "You know what? What if I come in early?" Because the buyer who I worked with, she would always get in the office at like 6:30. I was like, what if I
Mm.
come to office early and stay late? And I work with Mary,
Mm-hmm.
who was our buyer. If I did that and then did my planning job during my regular hours, could I get the experience? And I got 3 people to sign off on that plan. And so that's what I did.
Wow.
I came in early, worked with her, did whatever she needed me to do. Then I did my regular job, and then I would stay that night because she also didn't leave the office till like 8 o'clock. I would
Mm.
stay and I would work with her. And when a role came up, she fought for me to get that promotion. Um,
Wow.
and so, I did that for a few years, got promoted to senior assistant buyer. And then I was like, it's time for me to move to New York. It's time.
Mm.
And it's funny because you're always waiting for this right moment, right? The right
Ooh.
moment, and the right moment never really comes, right? You never have
Mm-mm.
enough money, you never have enough resources, the apartment ain't
Mm-mm.
there. So
Nothing. Don't nothing go right. It's like, what
so
in the world?
it's just, and sometimes, I believe in planning, and I've gotten much better about planning, but I do
Mm-hmm.
believe that at some points in your life you just have to take the jump. And
Mm.
so I started going to New York 1 or 2 times a year just to get over the fear of living in that city. I wanted to
Right.
kind of feel like I lived there.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, on a trip to New York, I was like, all right, I'm going to find me an apartment. I'm going to go find me a job. I didn't have any interviews, but what I did was I set up lunch dates with all of my vendors in New York. Let's just catch
Mm.
up.
Right.
Then I figured when we did the catch up, I would tell them I'm getting ready to move to New York. Um, and it worked. One of them offered me a job on the spot,
Wow.
and and I didn't find an apartment, but I wrote a resignation letter to my boss and
Mm-hmm.
3 bosses ahead of them, all personal notes, how they had
Wow.
touched me, how they had inspired me, but I was getting ready to make this leap. And I quit, put in my 2 weeks notice, and moved to New York. Didn't have a place to stay, but I negotiated for them to pay for me to stay somewhere for 2 weeks, and I
Mm-hmm.
found my apartment the first day I moved here.
A few things, right?
I know,
This
long
is why I
story, right? Long story.
no. This is why I love you. This is why I needed you on this podcast because I'm like this woman right here. So, okay, first things first. The guy who said, "What are you really wanting to do?" Like that person to say, like, "What is it that you really want to do?" And then you saying, "Okay, I know this isn't it." Moving back home, right? And what all of the things that you were able to heal, the traumas that you were able to deal with when you
Mhm.
moved back home. A lot of people would think moving back home is a step back or you've, made a detour, if you will. But
Yeah.
like you said, we're in places for a reason. There's a purpose for being in those spaces. Then you
And let
get
me
to,
let me let me just say this real quick, Ashley.
okay.
Sometimes, right, when we have to move back somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
it is to right strengthen us, because what
Mm,
happened for me, I'm from Memphis, I moved to
mm-hmm.
Atlanta, everybody's like, Brandis is in Atlanta, how cool is that, right? Then
Mm-hmm.
you come back and everybody's like, oh, you're back in Memphis. And it's that kind of judgment that I ran across over and over and over again. Oh, you're back. Oh, you're back. Oh, what are you going to do? I didn't know what I was going to do, right? I didn't have like a strategic plan laid out. And I kept getting that, like, oh, you're back. Oh, you're back. And it got so annoying to me that when people said, what are you doing? I would say, I'm working at McDonald's. And I would not smile. I would not crack a smile. I would literally let them believe that, because I had to get to a point where I didn't care what people thought
Mm.
about me.
Ah,
And when you get to your lowest low, which for me, that being home was definitely a low, you
mm-hmm.
kind of start to let go, right? You have to
Mm.
almost let go of like the persona, or whatever people thought you were, and or whatever, like people kind of put you on a pedestal. You just let it go, and you get to a place where you're like, I'm on my plan, God's plan, and I have to literally block out all of these distractions, because it's only distractions. And so if the people who are listening, anybody's at home right now, get to a place where people ask you your plans, where it doesn't phase you. Tell them whatever. Tell them you don't got a job. You're not even looking for. Get to a place where when people, and the people who have good intentions for you, and the people who are just you
Brandis.
know being judgy. So those people who are coming into your life being judgy, let them judge on, but don't you participate.
How did you deal with that though? Was that hard for you? Because
Of
I
course.
I still find myself in places like that where I'm being and I feel it and and it's like uncomfortable and you have to feel like you have to over explain yourself. And I'm like,
You have to get to the place where you're not willing to over
mm,
explain yourself, right? You can't be willing, because it also strips you of the need to have people perceive you a certain way. And
ugh,
until you can kind of get stripped in that way, it's hard for you to move forward, because you're
mm,
constantly trying to posture for other people. Like, people see HFR now. They didn't see HFR in 2007, when people were looking at me like I was a freaking nut case,
right.
doing this event and talking, well, what is it? Well, what is it going to be? Well, what did it? And I didn't know those answers, but that time in Memphis had prepared me for basically blocking all of that noise out and just being laser focused.
Mm. Let's talk about Harlem's Fashion Row. So the idea was cultivated because you went
And
to
we
a
can
fashion
take our
show.
time. We can take our time,
Okay.
Ashley. We can take
Okay.
our
Okay.
time.
Because I'm like, I don't want
We
to.
can no, we can take our time. We can take our
You
time.
guys, I am in the presence of a queen. This one right here, she has helped me. So I'm like trying to hold on. I'm trying to get all as much as soak it all up. This for me too, y'all. Y'all
We
know
can
that, right?
take
This
our
is for
time.
me.
We can take our time.
Okay. So if we taking our time, let me back up because I want to talk a little bit about, have you ever felt judged by your family? Have you ever felt like that your family didn't quite understand your path
Mhm.
or your journey? And did that lead, how did that make you feel if you did have
Mhm.
that situation?
Yeah, what's funny is that my dad is the ultimate cliff jumper. He is the
Mm-hmm.
risk taker, right? I got so
Mm-hmm.
much of who I am from him. However,
Mm-hmm.
when I started my company, he was like, "What you doing?" Like it was like I stopped talking to him about it because I just stopped. I was like, I'm
Right.
not even talking to him about this because
Mm-mm.
he don't get it. And here's the thing, I don't fully get it either right now. So I can't explain it to him. He don't get it. So let me just not talk to him about it. I'll talk to the
Okay.
people who actually are like, girl, we don't know what you're doing, but hey, let's go. Right.
Right.
And you just have to, especially when you're in the beginning of something, like who is around you is so incredibly important. And family, they love you, they don't, mean any harm, but sometimes, they can't. And again, I'm talking about a father who has taken so many risks, but he didn't even get it, and I couldn't even talk to him about it. So imagine if someone has a parent who's never taken those types of risks and you're taking one, they don't get it, like, right? And it's okay. It is
Right.
okay. So what you do is you really have to protect your dreams, especially in the beginning, because they're so fragile. You're so sensitive about them. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's so easy to get your heart broken by
Mm-hmm.
people in the very beginning. So you almost have to insulate your dream with, you don't want yes men all your life. You need people who will challenge you, but not at the
Right.
beginning. At the
Right.
beginning, like insulate that dream like a little newborn and surround it by the people who they might not get it, but they love it because you love it.
Wow. Oof. That's that's good because I found myself like I'm 37, right? And I started my journey and I we talked a little bit about it, but I started off in fashion. I was a stylist. I even tried my hand at my own collection. Girl didn't have any money for it, couldn't afford to keep that going. So I had to let that go. And then, along this journey, I was, doing TV spots and my dream just I began to pivot. I began to say, okay, this was it at first, but I want to move from being so focused in this area. I want to explore other things. And when I told my family that I was moving to LA, they were like, whoa, you're what? I mean, I got a lot of pushback from it, right? And it was like, I was sensitive. And at that point that was 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago when I moved here. And my dream, I had been in my dream for several years at that point, but I was still finding myself being ultra sensitive, feeling like I had to over explain myself. Why am I making this decision? You know what I mean? And so just listening to what you had to say in terms of just letting it go, releasing it. And now
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm better at it in terms of I don't feel like I have to explain because they see. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I want to ask that for you. Did you get to a place to where they stopped asking because they began to see it unfold? You know what I mean? Did you get to that place? Have
They
you gotten to that place?
Yeah, they definitely see. But
Mm-hmm.
I also, in the very beginning, got to a place where I had to get so laser focused that I couldn't be bothered. So it's just, because all of that, right? Everything, you can't, everything that's coming in, you almost have to filter it because it's going
Mm.
to impact what comes out, right? So if I have people doubt coming in, now when I am putting something out into the world, you can feel the doubt, right?
Girl, you
So
better preach.
so you have to be so careful about what you allow in. Even my mother, who, oh my gosh, my mom has been my rider for
Mm.
HFR, like my rider, okay? But even her, she would say things like, you know, whew, I just want you to have enough money to cover the event. And I say, step back. No, no, not in here, mama. That's not the faith I got. So
Oh,
I'm gonna call you back. And I'm like, that's not what I have faith for. So are you standing with me in faith or not? Because I'm not just having faith to have something covered. I need it to be very profitable. So, so she finally got on board, but I had to keep saying, no, mom, let me get off the phone. Mom, I'm sorry, I love you, but let me get off the phone. That's not what I got faith for. And I need you to be on board with me and have the same faith. You gotta, if we in this thing and you say you praying with me and you praying for just enough and I'm praying for abundance, nah, ain't gonna work, mom.
girl,
Not
Brandis,
gonna
wait
work,
a minute.
mama.
Did you find it that people that you didn't know were like cheering for you more than the people that knew you? And not because of anything seated in, harm or anything, but just
Yeah,
did
I
you
think you
find that?
I think you find what you want to find, Ashley.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
that's where that filtering comes in. Like there are so many. Some of my friend asked me, Brandis, who are your haters? I said, I don't know.
No.
Because I'm not looking for them, right? So I don't know. Who knows? I got so many people who love and support me that I don't have time to be distracted by haters or to even focus on that. What you focus on and who you focus on and what you give your energy to, that is a choice.
Mm,
And I have chosen, right, to really put my energy in the places where I feel loved, accepted, protected,
right.
and then when the other people decide to come on board, I'm like, come
Come
on.
on. Yes. Because you're
It's
happy
no,
then.
I'm like,
Right.
come on, come in. And when you're dealing with Harlem's Fashion Row,
Mm,
when you're dealing with a company that is talking to people about race in fashion,
mm,
right? So we're we,
mm-hmm.
we're an agency and we create a bridge between brands and designers of color and fashion through, we work with brand strategy collaborations, experiential marketing and pipeline programs. And so when you're doing something like this, especially in 2007 when nobody wanted to talk about it, you have to get to a place where I had to get to a place where I didn't take anything personal. But when
Mm,
people finally decided to come on board and support, I was cool with it. Like it was
right.
like, no, oh my gosh, you didn't support for the last 5 years and now you're coming to, no, none of that.
Mm-mm. Petty. That's not
Yes.
because you need some people. And then, like you said, some people just don't get it. Right.
Yeah.
And then they understand it later by and by. But let's talk a little bit about, I want to talk about faith. And then I want to go into your first event, which was on my birthday, August 17th in
Yeah.
2007. But I want to talk about faith because you've mentioned faith so often. And I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning, I'm on a 21-day Daniel fast. I'm a woman of faith. I'm very seated in faith. So I want to ask you, how has faith played a part of your journey? What tools have you used
Mm-hmm.
in faith to equip you to not give up, to continue to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, it's the foundation of who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't say this, but my mom is a teacher. My dad was a pastor. So I'm a PK. So it is such a big piece of like who I am, what I do. One of the things I've done for the last 20 years is I've prayed with the same prayer partner, my
Mm-hmm.
friend Tamara. And that is so amazing to start my day with her, my safe space where I can say whatever I want to say. We can pray about it. We can, say what we're grateful for. And that is something I do not every single day. Let me take that back. I do that most days because some days
Right.
he and I have our schedules are off, but we
Mm-hmm.
try to do it every day during the week. That's been a big piece of it. And prayer is a big part of it. There has been so many risks that I've taken that I'm like, yeah, God, I don't know I don't know how this is going to work. I need you to speak to me and tell me like what to do next because I got myself in a pickle again. So,
Girls, same.
so there's there's that. Um, and sometimes I know exactly, like not exactly, I can't say that, but I feel very confident, right? That I know
Mm-hmm.
the next move God has for me. And then
Mm,
sometimes I don't. And I'm
right.
like, all right, I don't hear no. I don't feel like I shouldn't do it, so I'm going. So
Right.
so it's just such a big piece of everything that I do, with my team. Like we pray before every event backstage when we were having events in person.
Mm-hmm.
Um yeah, and it's also kind of really got it like what our events feel like. We're in fashion that is very exclusive and
Mm-hmm.
um but I've always wanted people to feel when they walk through any door, you know, any HFR door. My goal is, my prayer has always been, God, let every person who walks through the door feel love and accepted. In this
Mm,
room, let
that's
the room be
good.
transformed. And so I think that's a big piece of our brand ethos.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's worked because you've been going, you just celebrated your 13th year
We
last
did.
year.
Yep.
So exciting. Your first event, like I said, was on my birthday, August 17th. As you guys can see, why I love this lady so much. We have such a connection. She has no idea. August 17th, 2007, your first event.
Hmm.
Walk us through, because I've watched your interviews and you've talked about how that day, and this idea again for HFR came about because you went to the event, the fashion show in Brooklyn, and you said, okay, I want to bring this to Harlem. And then you planned it in what, 3 months? Is that
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Walk us through that. Walk us through that, Brandis.
Yeah, I think sometimes you find your purpose and sometimes it
Mm-hmm.
finds you. And I had no idea when I went to that fashion show that I would be inspired in that way. It was I think the first fashion show I had been to in New York, it was in a small restaurant in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
And I was standing there watching, me and my friend had shimmied our way up to the front because there was no seating. It was all standing and we had found a way to get close. And I'm watching it, and it was almost like, you need to do this in Harlem, like something that was like downloaded almost
Yes.
in my spirit. And I left the space we had shimmied to, and I went and found a seat, and it was almost like all of these thoughts and ideas were just coming towards me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, you're going to do this event in Harlem. Here's who's going to be a part of it. You know, you're going to ask this person first. And so my friend was like, girl, where you go? You lost our green. And I just almost like vomited this idea on her. I'm like, Camila, and she's like, oh, I love that. And what about this? And what about this? And what about? And so she and I, we took the subway from like Brooklyn to the Upper East Side to a party. And I remember at that party, I didn't talk to one person. I was in
Wow.
my corner, in my own world, in my mind, thinking about this event. And it was, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue what I was really embarking upon, but I knew I had to do it. And so I
Right.
sent out, I had decided, okay, these are the 5 boutiques that I want to be a part of it. There were 5 Black-owned boutiques in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent them, I waited till I had to go to Memphis for something. And I sent them all these letters, and the letters were on this like chartreuse paper. I had wrapped them in like this, like chocolate covered, like ribbon.
Detail.
And then I had this, I still have the envelope. Then I had like this chocolate envelope, and I written on it in gold writing.
Mm-hmm.
And the theme I thought was, none of these people know me except one, because I was volunteering in his store. The rest
Mm-hmm.
of them don't know me. So at least when I call, I can say, hey, I'm the one who sent you like the letter and the chartreuse paper. And they go, oh, okay.
Mm.
And I always tell people, your presentations, your documents that you send over, is, to me, it's a reflection of what your event is going to be. So if you send
Right.
me over some deck and the margins are off and the all kind of different funky fonts and all this stuff, I'm like, yeah,
You're
no,
like,
yeah. So and so all of them said no except for one. And I just
Mm-hmm.
kept going back, and eventually 4 out of the 5 said yes. We did the event on August 17th. It was so far from perfect, but it was definitely the best event we've ever done.
Right. And it was done.
It
Better
was done.
done than
It
not,
was
right?
done. It was done.
Right. And I
Yep.
want to ask you, before I ask my next question, I want to ask, you were on Owns the No, like a documentary, a mini docu-series, and you said to always ask.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing that can happen, you can get a yes or a no, but to always ask. I believe you said it like that.
Yep.
You just talked about how you asked the designers, you sent them
Mm-hmm.
the envelope
Mm-hmm.
with the paper, the gold writing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to find out from you in the ask. Sometimes people will stop at the no. The
Mm-hmm.
first no that we get, it's like, oh, they said no, so I'm going to leave that alone. You've said that you continue to ask. So you didn't
Mm-hmm.
ask one time.
Mm-mm.
You ask over and over again until
Mm-hmm.
you got that yes.
Mm-hmm.
Brandis, break that down for us. So what is it
Well,
between, like, so we're not stalking and
so
that we're trying to get how do we navigate that space of continuing to send the email, continuing to send the note, and not wanting to scare anybody, but we're trying to get our yes. How do we walk that line?
so this is gonna sound crazy, but they had already said yes in my mind, right?
Oh,
They just didn't know they had said yes yet. So I just had to convince them to say yes. So it was, I just kind of, I would say, they would say, no, 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 I don't think I can be a part of it. I say, hold on, don't say no. Just say you'll think about it and I'll come back. And I would
mm.
smile and they go, girl, all
Who
right.
is this?
And then I come back again. I go, hey, have you given it some more thought? Here are the updates. Like I would give them updates. Here are the updates. Here's what's happened
Mm-hmm.
now. We would love to be you to be a part of it. Like, we've got this person who said yes and did it, whatever fancy updates I had.
Right.
And I would say it and they go, yeah, no, I still don't think I'm doing this. And I would be like, don't say no, don't say no. I'll come back. Okay. I'll come back. And that was that was literally
Wow.
what I did. And then once I got one to say yes and I got two to say yes, then I went to the third one and was like, these two people have already said yes. So
Mm.
I would love for you to be a part of this. And I'll never forget Letitia from Pieces Boutique.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
She said when I came to her, she's like, somebody please go get me that green piece of paper because this girl is not gonna stop. And I was like, nope. And I think it's all in like how you do it. And when you're really convinced that somebody has already said yes, you're really hard to stop, right? Because if I've decided that the answer is yes,
Oof.
you really haven't made a firm decision that the answer was no. You just said no based on like you didn't have enough information, and so um
That's
I,
good,
you
Brandis.
just didn't have enough information to say yes. So I had to give you some more information to get my yes.
So go in saying that they're going to say yes. Do you think that your personality, though, do you think that that helped? Because you can't go in with a bad attitude, right? Or
Oh
you
no.
can't be
No, 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 no,
like,
no, 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 no.
uh,
And I
talk to
also
us.
think, yeah, I also think like, you know, I don't know, like I try not to hold things too tight, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
if you can make things a little bit fun for
Yes.
people, then they just are like, that girl is crazy. Okay. So I think that definitely helped. But there have been times when, I mean, 2011, Target came aboard as our sponsor, and
Yes.
I I must have emailed that man so many times. I sent him things in the mail. I did all the things, right, to get
Mm.
an answer. And I wasn't getting an answer. And I started to feel like I am getting to the place where I am annoying him. I know I have to be
Yes.
annoying him. And it was like, well, what else can I do that's not really annoying, but that's a good
Mm.
follow up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll send cupcakes. That's a good follow up.
Oh, that's a
Or
good idea.
maybe I'll send, can't even tell you. I have a full cupcake account with Baked by Melissa's because we used to send that many cupcakes. But like, what else can I do, right? So
Right.
even when you're negotiating costs, like there's been times where there's a venue, it was $16,000 for the space, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I know this is our space, but I can't afford this space. And I was like, can you please? She was like, oh no, I don't think so. And I was like, I'm gonna send them cupcakes, and they came down to $10,000 for the space. So it's like, it's
Wow.
also not following up in the same way. Don't keep sending somebody emails, please.
Okay.
So what else can you do that can be a creative way to follow
Mm.
up?
That's good. That's good. Now, you talked about your sponsorships. And before we dive into sponsorships, I just have to ask, from that first event that you had on August 17th to where you are now, you're going into your 14th year. What did you take away from that event that you still refer to till this day?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I think how I approach my team is
Mm,
still very similar to what I did then. I still like to write out all the details before an event so that in my mind, I know exactly what it's going to look like. Right. So
mm,
even if the event hasn't happened yet, and I did that for that event in 2007, I
mm,
like wrote down like minute by minute, like what would happen. And that's always so helpful. It's something that we still do now.
mm-hmm,
Um, I also learned that things are going to go wrong. Something's
mm.
always going to happen, and you got to be prepared for it. And, I'm yet to have one flawless event, right? So,
I don't believe that.
no,
Uh,
it's true. It's so true.
Even the
People,
LeBron event,
no,
that
it
one
wasn't
was.
flawless. No, it wasn't flawless because we had like right before the event. Now, when people came in, they probably thought it was flawless, but people never see the behind the scenes, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody had gone and messed up all the placements at LeBron's table, and Nike execs had came to set that table up specifically, and I was like freaking out about that because I'm like,
You wouldn't have
so
never known.
but you learn that this is it. This is like something will happen. And I wish that it wasn't that way, but 14 years of experience have taught me that if you're doing a big event, you're going to miss something. Something's going to fall through the cracks. Some ball is going to drop some kind of way, or something's going to happen that you could have never even expected or planned for.
Right.
But how you show up as a leader is going to be how everyone reacts. That
That's
is that
good.
is the most important piece. Like how you show up. And let me just give an example. So 2017, it was our 10th year. We had to
Mm-hmm.
rent tents. It was raining cats and dogs at that event, right? First event I decided to do outside is raining cats and dogs in New York. So the people get wet, water's coming down, like it's a whole thing. And I was and that day was so stressful for me. We had to spend all this money we didn't have on tents and all this stuff. I was so stressed out. So I stayed home until I got myself together. My sister was there and she was running things and she was like, "Are you coming?" I was like, "I'm
We need
coming.
our leader. We need
I'm
our leader.
coming. I'm coming, but I need to pull myself together." Okay.
Right.
So I came and I was like, "All right, I gotta pretend like it's not raining."
Mm.
And I walked through the whole thing and I act like it wasn't raining the entire time and like everything was like regular and normal. And I remember even being when the event started, I was like under stage, like water's like dripping down my face. And I'm
Wow.
just going along like there's no water dripping down my face because it's that is something that I did in 2007 that I still do today.
Ooh, and I'm gonna look. These are tips. I hope y'all are taking notes because these are okay. This girl, I told y'all, this is why. Okay, let's talk about sponsorships
Mhm.
because as a Black woman, you have been able to generate some big brands to work and partner
Mhm.
with HFR, Target, Gap,
Mhm.
Nike.
Mhm.
Brandis, break it down for us. Like if someone is looking for, let's say, an influencer, she may not
Mhm.
have, the
Mhm.
50,000 followers. She may have 10,000 followers,
Mhm.
or she may have 5,000, or it's a small business and they're wanting a cupcake business. You like cupcakes
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
they're wanting to, get a brand on board to get more exposure. What is the first step in us navigating that space of reaching out to a partner,
Mhm.
big or small, to work with us?
Yeah. I think first is knowing your audience, right?
Mm,
So if it's a social, like who are the people who follow you? Who
mm-hmm,
like what are all their demographics, right? So
mm-hmm.
knowing that, and then knowing what value can you give to a brand, because
Right.
it's not, when we partner with a brand, that brand is getting a ton of value too. And so it has to
That's
be
great.
that there's this win-win relationship, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everybody has to come out of this winning. It can't be, got to be can't be that you're just taking their check and
Right.
then they're not really getting anything back in return. So it really is about like, how do you serve your customer in the best way possible? And
Mm-hmm.
and when you're working with the brand, that's your customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about um service, quite honestly, more than
Mm-hmm.
anything. If you understand, how do I provide value to my customer? How do I serve my customer in a way that no one else is doing?
Mm-hmm.
How do I create a seamless experience for them and how they work with me? Then, you can attract brands.
Mm. Let me
I
ask
mean,
you
it's much
this,
more complicated than that, but that's the start. That's the start.
and we can just grab her book
Yes,
sponsorship. How to
absolutely.
get brands to pay for your event.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever encountered brands that you had to decline? They may have wanting to work with you, but you had to tell them it's not a good fit. How does that work?
Yes. I had that happen our first year.
Oh.
First year out, for the show in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
I had this guy who I had seen at an event. I kept emailing him. He never responded. So I sent him and his team breakfast
Mm-hmm.
and he responded. He wanted to meet with me and we had a great meeting. He had a brand on board, but their vision for how they wanted to activate at this event, how they wanted to show up at this event was not in alignment with how I saw HFR. And this is our first year, but
Mm-hmm.
I just had a vision of what HFR would be. And that just didn't feel right for me.
Right.
And that was the hardest email I probably, one of the hardest emails I've sent was to say, I'm so sorry, but I appreciate this. I'm so grateful, but we're not able to move forward. It's not a good brand fit for us. The things that they were asking. Now I know I could have also gone back and said, no, that doesn't work, but here is how it could work, right? That was
Mm.
also an opportunity. But then I've also had to um, turn down six-figure brands before
Wait,
that.
what? Not the six, Brandis.
Mhm.
Really?
Because you have to think long term, right? What do you
Right.
want for your brand long term, even if you have to suffer a little bit right now?
Yeah.
What do you want for your brand long term, and then what do you have peace with? It goes back
Mm.
to that faith. And when God is not giving me peace about something, I have to follow that. And both times, I actually had to happen twice with six-figure
Mm.
contracts on the table. And both times I had to, it was like something about the deal that didn't feel totally honest.
Mm.
Um, Something that just didn't feel right. And I had to follow that. And that was so hard to do. I mean, oh my gosh. Like, and you're talking about being
Wow.
married. I had to go tell my husband, babe, that deal that was gonna be like a high six-figure deal. We just can't do it, and
Mm.
I just need you to trust me on this though,
Mm.
because and shout out to my husband because Lord knows he's
Can
been
we
on this
shout out the
crazy. Can we shout
husbands?
out the husbands, girl, Lord, because
Let's
he has
shout
been
them
on a
out.
crazy journey with me.
Same.
But and I look back and I'm so happy I didn't do those deals. I'm
Mm.
so happy I didn't do them. So happy I
That's
didn't
good.
do them. Yeah.
That's good. So following your intuition, right? When you know it doesn't
Yeah.
feel right. Yep.
Yeah. And if it's
Um.
not in alignment with where you see yourself going, right? You have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to see beyond the now,
Mm.
and see how do you want your brand position, right? And if I
Mm.
had some of those brand partnerships, then a Nike might not have been attracted to HFR or Gap, so you
That's
just have to
good.
be very careful about how your brand shows up and thinking about what do you want long term for it.
That's good. Last year we saw a lot of businesses, putting up the black box in response to the killings with George Floyd and the protests and what have you. You created HFR in response to the lack of diversity for Black designers in fashion. 14 years coming up this year. Do you, and many of the designers credit you as being their person who gave them access, who gave them exposure. Do you feel like there is still more work to be done 14 years in? Is there still work to be done in terms of diversity in fashion?
Yeah, there's so much work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we are closer than I've ever seen us.
Mm-hmm.
But there is work to be done. But I can actually see like a tinge of light at the end of the tunnel now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really, really grateful for that.
Wow. What are your thoughts when you see people like Teflar? He was the 2020 CFDA accessories designer. He showed in one of your events, I believe in 2017 it was. I can't remember the year. But what do you see 2010? What do you feel personally when you look and see these people that you started off the little engine that could, but then the little engine that could gave opportunities and helped others who were also the little engine that could now receive the access and the awards that they have been fighting for. What do you feel in those moments? Do you sit back and take that in?
Honestly, no. Because these designers work so hard and they sacrifice so much themselves. I mean, maybe HFR has played a small part, but so much of it, the credit goes to them and the tenacity that they've had to have to keep going, quite honestly. Yeah, they are my heroes.
And you are theirs, and you are mine too. I watched your TED Talk in which you spoke about being an outsider. And at the end of the talk, you say the real outsiders are on the outside. You've, referred to yourself as a fashion outsider, but come on now, Brandice, you're no outsider.
I am. I still am. I know it doesn't look like it, right? But I really am still an outsider. And I do believe that outsiders are the ones that win, right? Like when you're think about any brand, big brand that's been created over the last few years. It's usually created by somebody from the outside, right? It's usually Airbnb. They weren't in the hospitality business, right. And just go look at 5 brands that you love right now. And usually they're created by outsiders, because outsiders usually come into an industry and they don't know the rules, they don't know the players, they don't have any of the baggage that other people have that are in, and they don't owe anyone any favors. Right. They don't see things the same as everyone else. They don't see the same limitations as people who are insiders, because they've never been inside. They don't even know what the rules are. They don't even know what the rooms look like inside. So right. When you're coming in from the outside, it just gives you this great advantage to be able to create what you see based on your vision and not based on like what you've experienced before.
So don't let the word outsider stop you from going after that big dream that you want, right? Is that right?
No, if anything, let being an outsider push you. Like it's being an outsider is dope. And, that's why I refuse to let people call me an insider, because I love, and I still am, and I really still am an outsider. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm telling you, I am. And because I still don't come from that world, right? I don't come from the world of working for a luxury brand. I don't come from the world of working for a magazine. I don't know. I've had big people call me and ask me for my opinion, and I told them. Whereas somebody else would probably be like, oh no, Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so. Like, I don't have any of that, right? Because I'm an outsider. So I'm like, this is what I think. No, I don't think it's a good idea. So I just, I don't think people shouldn't let being an outsider deter them. It really should push you. I mean, look at Issa Rae and what she created, right? She was a total outsider. She wasn't. And she still functions like an outsider, right? She's still creating outside the box. Why? Because she didn't come from that world.
Oh, and I'm so sad Insecure is ending. I hate that. So What's next for you? Do you have any new dreams? I know that you're working on a
I
book.
do.
I cannot wait for the book. Can you tell us anything about the book?
Oh my goodness. It's just a lot of details that I've never shared before. That will be in there, and I think it will be, one of those books that an entrepreneur just starting will really cling to. I hope, for hope, and and
Mm-hmm.
and for feeling like they have somebody who understands and who's been there. Um, I tell lots of stories, lots,
I've been reading. You've been
lots of
dropping some
stories.
of them on your Instagram
Lots
before
of
you left us.
I know, lots of stories in there. Yeah, and then now I'm at an interesting place. I'm really feeling like there's something else for me. I
Mm,
don't know what it is. I told my sister tonight, I was like, yeah, I think I'm kind of like, I mean, I might need to, I don't know. I'm bringing in more team members so I can be a little bit more hands off with
mm-hmm.
HFR, lead the vision, but hands off on kind of like, on the day to day things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's next, And my sister, my sister says to me on the call, she's like, "Oh, girl, you'll have something else before you hire those people, you'll have new things." She's like, and then you'll be saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm more busy than I was with HFR." But I don't know. I'm very open.
Mm-hmm.
I when you do something for 14 years straight and you've been, so in a zone doing it,
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, this is going well, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, I didn't have time to even think about anything else because things were so chaotic and so
Right.
unstable. So now I'm like, okay, things are going well. Like, what else would I like to do? What else
Right.
do you want to do, Brandon? So I'm in that space now of exploration.
Would love more TED Talks from you. That was so good. I was
Oh,
like,
thank you.
would love more of those. What is your hope for HFR?
My hope is that we leave behind a easy pipeline for designers of color, right?
Mm-hmm.
So HFR, I want designers who want to work in house for a brand to
Mm-hmm.
have this very easy pipeline, or collaborate with the brand or anything, to have this very easy pipeline to be able to do that, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
no big barriers. And then with Icon 360, which is our nonprofit, I want designers to always have funding. And so we're
Mm-hmm.
working on building a $10 million fund for designers now.
Wow.
And so that we can, really, you grow that to a place where it can last, for the
Mm-hmm.
next 20 to 30 years, or 50 years. I
Right.
would like to almost have, like an endowment is what I would like to have.
I
Yeah.
love that. This has been, thank you, God. Thank you, Brandis. You have blessed me. Thank you. I know you blessed the people, but you've blessed me. So thank you
Oh,
for taking the time. Tell people where they can follow you and your website, where they can get your resources. Tell the
yeah.
people.
Yeah, sure. You can go to my website. It's Brandice Daniel, and that's BRANDICE, Daniel, not a S at the end. You can go to my personal Instagram. By the time this is out, I might be back on. That's at Brandice Daniel. You can also go to Harlem's Fashion Row if you're looking to support designers of color. Please go there. HarlemsFashionRow.com is the website, and Harlem's Fashion Row is our Instagram account as well.
And before you go, can we play a quick game? Let's have
Sure.
a little fun. Okay.
Okay.
So it's done in 60 seconds. It's rapid fire. So
Okay.
you ready?
Yep.
What do you do to unwind?
Take a bath.
Bubbles or just plain bath?
Warm bubble bath.
Memphis or New York?
So hard. So hard. Memphis.
Okay. What is your 5 year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I'm speaking, doing book tours, and possibly launching a movie.
Mm, I look, I'm speechless because why did I have that in my mind that your story needs to be okay. Um, anyway, what brings you joy?
Oh man, my baby girl, Sky. She brings me
Mm,
so much joy.
I love it. You brought us joy today. Thank you so much, Brandis. I appreciate you for taking the time. I can't wait till you get back on Instagram. I may send you some cupcakes because
Don't send me
this,
cupcakes. I'm on a
okay.
diet. I am on a diet. No cupcakes,
Okay,
please.
I won't send cupcakes. I'll send bananas or a fruit
Okay.
basket, a fruit
Okay.
basket. But I am just very appreciative of you and your being and your story. And I don't know if people, I'm sure people tell you, but I just want to let you know that your story inspires people who may not even tell you. So I'm telling you, I'm going to give you your flowers now. Thank
Mm,
you. I appreciate your journey because it's helping people like myself on my journey. So thank you so much.
thank you so much for that. I really
Yes.
appreciate that.
And this will probably be up before you're back on Instagram. So come on back
Oh,
early.
I can't. I cannot. I cannot.
Brandis,
but
you have to.
but when I'm back, I'll post it. How about that?
Okay.
When
Okay. And then
mhm.
before I let you go, are you doing something in Memphis? Are you having like are you doing anything there as well? Because I know that you do like you did a 10-year there, right? Like a 10
I
year.
do every 5 years. I do an event
Okay.
in Memphis,
Okay.
so I'm committed to. I think it's a shame when people leave their cities, do something great in another city, and never bring it back to their own city.
Right.
So I am committed to bringing HFR to Memphis every 5 years.
Okay. Okay. Look, let me know what I can do to help. You have me. You have my full support. So whatever I
I
can do.
will. I will.
Yes.
I will. How is the podcast going?
Brandis, it's a journey. It's not as easy as people think. I'm already a
Hmm.
reporter, but this is a different style because it's a little bit more personal. It's a little
Right.
bit more,
You're a
so
great interviewer, though. You're great.
it but thank you. But these I felt I was being led by God to share stories, but I think that in the sharing of the stories, it helps me too. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I'm
Hmm.
sharing the stories for everybody, and everybody
Hmm.
I'm sure can pick something out of it for themselves. But it's
Hmm.
really therapeutic for me,
Yeah.
in my journey. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm
Well, you
definitely
did a
excited.
great job. I don't know if you do all your interviews like this, but you did a fantastic job.
Brandis, thank you. But look at what God did because earlier, what happened?
It did.
We
I
got
know.
disconnected.
I know we got disconnected. I didn't have time. I had calls back to back.
But thank you for being like, we can do it. I was like, what? And I didn't put in the email, can we do it all over? I was like, I'm gonna ask when we get on. Look, I'm asking, right? I was like, I'm gonna ask her politely, can we